Good morning, guys. How's it going? Today is going to be something a little bit different. This is a car that I have not even put on my channel at all. This is going to be on my Fiesta ST. For about a little over a year now. I've put about 27,000 miles on it, and I wasn't really planning on doing any kinds of mods, but I drive this car every day and I just was getting kind of bored of it, and so I decided to do a basic stage 1 tune. And so what it uses is the Cobb Accessport V3, and it's actually interchangeable from the Focus and the Fiesta. So I bought it used from a guy that owned a Focus ST, and then I went through Dizzy Tuning for my stage 1 tune. Now Dizzy claims that their tune is significantly, I would say significantly is a good word, better than the Cobb OTS off-the-shelf tunes. And so what I did was I got their stage 1 tune. Now what they say from Dizzy is that you can run the stage 1 on factory intercooler and basically factory everything. Like, you don't have to do any kind of serious changes. They do recommend spark plugs, although I've heard mixed reviews on that. So I'm still running the stock plugs and it's running fine. And they also recommend maybe doing an air filter, so I do have a K&N panel filter. And the only other thing I've done to this car is a lower rear motor mount, and I did the AWR 88A bushing motor mount. I've heard some people say that the whoosh is better, but I still like this motor mount, and it's very rigid. Takes a lot of the sloppiness out of the drivetrain and when I'm shifting and everything. Now I also did want to show you guys the sound with the filter. I don't really notice much. There might be a slight difference, but with the filter in there, I don't really notice any kind of difference in sound. Some people say they do. Whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's just a placebo kind of thing. But I'll do a couple of revs here with the camera outside so you can see it, or hear it, I should say. Doesn't sound much different to me. Now Dizzy claims that this tune will gain you about 20 wheel horsepower and about 50 wheel foot-pounds of torque. And right here you can see on this graph, this is right from their website, this is what they claim. So you can see it's far better than the factory tune, and still a decent amount above the Cobb as well. And I would say from driving this car for a week that it is definitely a whole different car, so much more fun. Now I am currently on BlizzX, so that's going to be kind of a problem with me having traction, and so I'm not going to really do many second gear pulls in this video, if any, because with these BlizzX, even with it being in the 30s, I mean it's just not going to hook. It spins. I mean, I was in third gear at like 50 miles an hour spinning, so it is what it is. You know, I'm just going to have to deal with it until spring comes around. But anyway, we're gonna get right into it and get driving here. So here we go. And I'm sorry if there's any kind of vibrations you hear at certain times. This engine mount does have a lot of vibrations, but just gonna have to deal with it. I'm used to it by now. Might have heard some there. Now, anyway, I'm going to start off with some of the negatives of this tune. One of them is really traction, and that might be a lot different if you were running either the factory Potenzas or the Pilot Sports. But I don't run the Pilot Sports in the winter here in Ohio because they just don't have good traction in the snow. These BlizzX are way better for that. And then beyond that, it's really just a matter of, kind of tell it's like an off-the-shelf tune, if that makes any sense. Like, there's certain aspects about it that you can kind of tell like the car doesn't necessarily like doing what it's doing. So one thing I notice is and this is something that a lot of you probably know if you own a Fiesta, and I don't know about the Focus, I've ridden in them, but I've never driven one. And what it does is when I shift from first to second, and the engine mount took a lot of slop out from the factory setup, but when I shift from first to second now, if I don't really take a solid second to wait and then get into the throttle after releasing the clutch, it kind of wants to jerk a little bit, and not like a buck. It's just kind of like when you give it some throttle right after shifting into second, it kind of really jumps. It's like the car really picks up quick, and it kind of like, you know, pushes you back, and it doesn't really feel very smooth. And I'm sure that's a lot of that has to do with just like the differences in timing and everything in the tune itself. But it's bearable, and once you kind of get used to it, you can avoid it for the most part. Every now and then I make a dumb mistake and I let it happen, but that's really about it for the cons. I mean, and even then, like, the torque thing isn't really much of a con because it makes it so much more fun, but it kind of is in a way, and it could be for some people. And like I said, in the winter it is kind of a con, but in the summer when I have my Pilot Sports on, I'm sure it's going to be a whole different car. Probably going to spin in second still, but not near as much. Now, and I haven't raced any cars really. Well, I have raced cars, but not since I got the tune on. And I haven't really, you know, even when I race people in the past, like, if you want to call it racing, you can call it that, but a lot of times it's one person being a dick to me or me being a dick back and someone trying to pass somebody and blah, blah, blah. But the car does accelerate a lot harder, even from a roll, and these cars are kind of dogs from a roll, really. But I've heard that on a Stage 1 tune, from most tuners, one of these cars will keep up with a WRX from a roll. So if that's the case, which I would believe it, because it is a huge difference now. Like, this car drives so much different, whether from a dig or from a roll. Well, from a dig, it just spins right now, but it can be pretty good. But if that's the case, then I would say it's definitely a good bang for buck. I spent less than $400 in total on the used Accessport and the tune. So I'm going to do a third gear pull here, and about 35 grand, so just around like peak RPMs. And I was getting traction issues at the towards the top of that gear. And it's dry. It's dry right now. It's sunny. It's cold, about 40 degrees, but I was getting traction issues at the top of that gear. So about 40 miles an hour in third gear right here. Getting on it right now. 50, 60, 70. There's 80 right there. So it is such a different car. And I really would highly suggest getting it. I'm going to do a second gear pull here for you guys. And it's just going to spin. But screw it. So second gear, about 3,000 RPMs, 30 miles an hour. And it was a lot of traction issues, but it got to about 65, 70. Actually hooked a lot better than I would have expected right there. That was actually kind of decent. But yeah, it's still, you know, you can tell this isn't really ideal conditions to be doing this kind of driving and with these tires. But even with them, the car is just totally different. The torque is way more evident. And anyone that drives these cars, any of you that own one of these, you know that the torque was already super obvious. Like, and these cars are torque monsters from the factory. And Ford rates them at 205 foot-pounds. But the problem is they're probably more like 230 at the crank from the factory, because any factory Fiesta I've seen on a dyno is making about 200 foot-pounds at the wheel. And so they're probably between 220, 230 at the crank. So these cars are actually underrated. And in my opinion, the torque doesn't really help too much with acceleration from a dig, because these cars, like I said, have traction issues, obviously. But from a roll, it does make a big difference, and I definitely enjoy driving this car. The passing power was already really good before, but it's even better now. And a honk at my buddy's house. He's got a 1,000 horsepower Mustang that I rode in, spinning the wheels at 80 miles an hour. Terrifying. And also, I just want to say that dealing with Dizzy was actually really great. I had some questions for them in the email, and this was on Black Friday weekend, and they emailed me on the weekend. Like, they were super communicative, and I had a great experience, and I would highly recommend anyone doing business with them. Now, like I said, I did get the off-the-shelf tune, but they also offer a custom tune for, I want to say it's either $50 or $75 more. The off-the-shelf tune is $75, so it's really not much at all. It's pretty cheap, but it is off-the-shelf, so it's not ideal, but it's good. But you can do a custom tune where you send them multiple data logs, and they'll help you fine-tune the car. But I should mention that even with the $75 tune, you do get one free data log that you can send to them. They say, hey, do a pull from about $2,000 all the way to $6,500 in either third or fourth gear, and then send it to us. And so that's what you can do. So you can get the car fine-tuned a bit more. I haven't sent it to them yet. I probably should get around to doing that. I've probably put about 200 to 300 miles on this car since I put the tune on, if not more. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you got something out of it. I know it's not really the exciting content that you're used to seeing, but I haven't really had a chance to work on my car lately. I had some personal issues going on in the family, and finally kind of back to being able to do stuff here. Anyway, you guys take it easy. Have a good one. I will see you later. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Gonna be posting videos probably every other week here in the winter, especially just because there's not really a whole lot I can do on the roads, and trying to save some money up. So you guys take it easy, and I'll see you later. All right, bye.